Bundling home and car insurance with Geico is so easy, your neighbors are probably already doing it. But who? They may drop little hints like,
beautiful day out. Even more beautiful since we saved by bundling our home and car insurance with Geico.
or
Yard work is hard. Much harder than bundling with Geico, which was easy.
or it may be even subtler, like,
Speaking of burgers, we bundled our home and car insurance with Geico and saved a bunch of money.
bundling is easy with Geico. Just ask your neighbors.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Before you ride, make sure your mirrors are clean and adjusted properly. And if you're going on a group ride, make sure the lead biker knows where they're going.
Ed, quick question. Where are you taking us?
Oh, I have no idea. Well, am I the leader? Because I was following that dude with the red helmet. Where is he?
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, what's up? This is Jeff Cobb, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here, solo this week. On today's show, I'll review G1 Climax 31, nights 6 through 10, answer listener questions, and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com. With features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Like you heard in the intro, you get a solo episode this week. The young boy was not able to make it on for the show tonight, and I did have our good friend Chris Samsa lined up for the show tonight, but some responsibilities from his shoot job had to pull him away from tonight's show. But Chris said he will be on the show for next week. So next week we'll get the stat man Chris Samsa on the airwaves to talk about G1 Climax. But this week you're getting another solo show. So we got tons to talk about this week revolving G1 Climax 31. I'm going to go into the rankings of the A block and B block. I'm going to give you guys my top 10 matches of the tournament thus far. A lot of great stuff to get into this week. One thing I want to mention before we jump into G1 stuff is our YouTube channel. So the Social Suplex Podcast Network YouTube channel, we have been starting to upload some podcast clips to that YouTube channel. So if you check that out, go to YouTube, type in the Social Suplex Podcast Network, subscribe to that YouTube channel. We're starting to upload some clips up there. Last week, uploaded a lot of great clips from our Rocky Romero episode that we aired, the interview that we aired last week on the 200th episode. A lot of the great clips from that interview is up there as well. And speaking of the 200th episode, I just want to thank everybody who listened and downloaded and shared last week. The 200th episode, one of the top downloaded episodes for Keeping It Strong Style this year. So appreciate the love and everybody that congratulated us on 200 episodes, and everybody that checked out our episode last week and our interview with Rocky, which I'm really proud of that interview. Thought that was really great. I think I even liked that one better than the first time that we interviewed Rocky for episode 100. So hopefully we'll have Rocky back on the show again before episode 300. But it's always good to have Rocky on the line here and on Keeping It Strong Style. So first thing I need to talk about here, it's a new month. It's October. September is behind us, which means we have to award the September Match of the Month and September Wrestler of the Month. I did not collaborate or consult the young boy Josh Smith on the picks here. I'm sure that he will trust me here and agree with my takes, ratings, and opinions on who the September Wrestler of the Month should be and what the September Match of the Month should be. So I'll start with the Match of the Month. The September Match of the Month is going to go to Shingo Takagi versus Tomohiro Ishii, opening night main event of day one of the G1 Climax 31, and this match was incredible. It's Shingo, it's Ishii, it's a big time main event. These guys got the G1 kicked off in a great start here. Your never style, hard hitting action, forearms, suplexes, no selling, fighting spirit. Just a great way, like I mentioned, to open up the tournament and this epic main event between these guys. And so far, it's spoiler alert, the best match of the tournament thus far. For me, I went 4.75 on this. A lot of people rating it the same. Some people throwing 5 stars on it. Clearly, I was a coward. I couldn't go the full 5, but this, to me, the best match of the tournament, best match of September, and that's why it's getting the Keeping It Strong Style September Match of the Month. And then for the Wrestler of the Month, it could only be one man, the submission master, Saber Jr. ZSJ has been on one heck of a run in the G1 so far, and you look at September and just the names that he's beaten and submitted. He's submitted the IWGP World Champion Shingo Takagi. He submitted Kota Abushi. His first win submitting Tetsuya Naito, breaking Naito's knees, throwing the knees in the bin, Naito out of the tournament. So very similar to his New Japan Cup run in 2018, Saber Jr. is tapping folks out and racking up points and making some big headway in this tournament. And not only is he just beating some of the top guys, he's having great matches as well. All 3 of those matches I mentioned were just great matches, and Zach is just on a hot run right now and had a great month of all 3 of those bangers. And looking forward to seeing how Saber does in the rest of the tournament and what his October looks like. If he can keep this up, then he can possibly win a back-to-back Wrestler of the Month award, which is kind of rare on the show, only done by folks like Will Ospreay and Tomohiro Ishii, guys that have those banger back-to-back months. So Saber Jr., ZSJ, Submission Master, the Keeping It Strong Style September Wrestler of the Month. And we did have a question here from Raisin Falcons. Does the G in G1 stand for Saber Jr.? I mean, I don't see the G there unless you want to throw a G in for Junior and try to use that G pronunciation there. But I get what you're saying, Raisin Falcons. Saber is just absolutely dominating the G1. And he's the top dog. And so right now, I'm going to go into reviewing the last few nights that we had here, but I'm going to go through it by looking at the rankings that we have here for the A block and B block and talk about each competitor, talk about the couple nights they had this past week, and then we'll go into predictions for the shows coming up next week. So we'll start with the A block here, and we'll start with the man on top of the block, 8 points, 4 wins, 1 loss, and that is Zack Saber Jr. Now, Zack Saber, he is the only guy, like I mentioned, that faced Tetsuya Naito in the tournament, which is why his win-loss record is going to be a little bit different than everybody else's. Due to the forfeit, everybody else in the block has points for 6 matches, but since Saber was the only guy that got to face Naito before the injury, Saber only has 5 matches, so that's why he is 4-1 right now. He has 8 points. So on night 7, Zack Saber Jr., he defeated the Great Okon, and then on night 9, he lost to Tomohiro Ishii. Both of these great matches here. So night 7 against Great Okon. I think, we'll talk about Okon in a minute, but I think this is the best that Great Okon has looked wrestling a Zack Saber Jr. style. And I think people forget that Great Okon did his excursion at Rev Pro, so he has that British style, that catch-as-catch-can, that submission technical style, and we saw him unleash that here with Zack Saber Jr. going hold for hold with Saber and looked really good here, but Saber was able to out-wrestle the Great Okon here and get the submission victory on him as well. So Saber picking up 2 points there. Defeated Great Okon 15 minutes and 26 seconds. I went 3.75 on that match. A really good match for that night. But then night 9, taking on Tomohiro Ishii. So coming in to night 9, Zack Saber Jr. was undefeated. Tomohiro Ishii coming in with some losses and really had to pick up a big victory here to survive in the tournament. And Saber and Ishii, we've mentioned it the last couple of weeks now, that these guys just have amazing chemistry, and when you look at them on paper, you might think, how's this matchup going to work with Saber, doing the technical wrestling and submission and trapping people in holes, and Tomohiro Ishii throwing the chop, throwing the lariats, trying to hit the brain buster. But the style dichotomy just works so well between these guys. The polar opposites, they attract here and always have a great matchup. Great story here with Zack Saber Jr. working over the arm of Tomohiro Ishii that he has taped up. And, Kevin Kelly has been doing a great job just kind of telling the story of why Ishii has that arm taped up so much. He has it taped up so tight that it cuts the feeling off in his arm, so he doesn't feel pain in his arm when he's throwing those chops, when he's throwing those lariats, when guys are working on his arm. And we've seen that Ishii has taken some damage on that arm in this tournament, especially during that Shingo Takagi match that I mentioned earlier. That arm gave him trouble when he was trying to hit the super brain buster on Shingo. So I don't know if it's a work or, Ishii's an amazing seller, or maybe it's a combination of both shoot and work. But the arm here is kind of the story for Ishii in this whole tournament. It's been plaguing him in all of his matches. And that was the case here once again. And Zack, knowing that, and Zack being the submission master, had the target on Ishii's arm, worked on the arm all throughout the match. But then, of course, Ishii was kind of able to goat Zack into some strike exchanges and getting the better of Zack there. And Ishii refusing to quit, continuing to use the arm, even though it was injured and feeling so much pain. And it got to a point at the end of the match, he takes the arm sleeve off. You get a gasp from the crowd, even though they're not supposed to be making any noises. They gasp because, they just know how much pain Ishii is in. He's taking the elbow wrap off, and he's just going to town on Zack Saber Jr. And he ends up hitting that vertical drop brain buster on Zack Saber and gives Saber his first loss for the tournament. Big win here for Ishii. This win keeps Ishii alive for right now. So Saber stays at 8 points, where Tomohiro Ishii goes up to 6 points. I went 4.5 on this matchup. So some good stuff here from Zack Saber Jr. once again this week. And even though he lost, Ishii still on top of the block. And has some, big wins, especially when it comes down the line for tiebreaker scenarios. Saber is still in a strong position, but you got to wonder now, is this going to be the descent of Saber? We know a lot of times guys, when they start off the G1 hot, they usually end up, going through a little cold spell and picking up some losses here. So It's going to be interesting to see this week. Is Saber going to, drop a couple losses and kind of lose some of that footing he's gained in the beginning of the tournament? And we'll see if Tomohiro Ishii can also rally up and pick up some wins and potentially finish closer to the top of the block here. So I did have a question from Dom Homie 101. He says, thoughts on ZSJ calling out a dragon from America? So for those of you that missed it, Zack Saber Jr. in his post-match promos, he said that he already defeated the Japanese dragon and he wants to face the American dragon, obviously referring to the American dragon Bryan Danielson. And Bryan Danielson has made comments saying he wants to face Saber and face him in Europe and beat him and get his technical wrestling award back, which is named after Bryan Danielson in the Wrestling Observer year-end awards. So I think that's big. I mean, I know that these guys have wrestled in the past before, but that was a much younger Zack Sabre Jr. That was a much younger Daniel Bryan. Both of these guys have advanced so much since the last time they faced each other. And I think this would be just an amazing matchup, especially if you could do it in Europe. You did it in a red-hot crowd for a Rev Pro show. I think also, AEW would be a great spot for it now. I would love to see it in New Japan also, but the one thing that would deter me from doing this match in New Japan is just the lack of crowd engagement and interaction that you can get with this match right now. So I think, doing it in Rev Pro or AEW might be the right call if they're trying to do this match anytime soon. But definitely think it needs to happen, and I'm excited about it. We talk about the Forbidden Door. Well, the Forbidden Door is off the hinges. AEW and New Japan are clearly working together. They're sending guys back and forth. They're sending Moxley over in Kingston to the Philly taping. So we're starting to see more synergy between AEW and New Japan. And one day we're going to get Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. Now we just got to wait for the stage and the time. Probably won't happen by the end of this year, but definitely sometime next year, I could see this match happening on a big stage. So now we'll move down the rankings here to Kenta, who is also at 8 points, but Kenta is 4-2. So Kenta got that extra 2 points from the forfeit from Naito. So he's at a 4-2 record, already 6 matches down, 8 points in the block here. On night 7, he lost to Shingo Takagi, 23 minutes and 56 seconds. And then on night 9, he defeated the Great Okon, 19 minutes and 30 seconds. So looking at that night 7 matchup with Shingo Takagi, I thought that was one of Kenta's best matches of the tournament. We've been getting a hit or miss kind of Kenta here, just based off to some of the opponents he's had and some of the shenanigans. You look at some of the Yano stuff, you got more of the kind of a silly Kenta, I'll see, not taking the match seriously, and then you shift gears here to this match with Shingo, where Kenta knows if he can beat Shingo, he can potentially get a future IWGP World Heavyweight title matchup, and then also get that coveted 2 points and advance in the block here. But that was not the case. He fell to the last of the dragon, even though, he tried everything. Shingo, very similar to Ishii. Shingo also suffering with a arm injury due to the arm bar being applied to him in the Saber match. Saber extending that arm, and now Shingo with a injured arm, and he has a target there on his arm, and Kenta tried to take advantage of the arm. At one point there was a ref bump, and Kenta used a steel chair on the injured arm of Shingo, but Shingo was able to fight back from that and come back and hit the last of the dragon, foiling Kenta's plans, and Shingo picking up 2 points there. Then the second matchup, kind of the opposite of the Shingo match. So the Shingo match, we got a more serious, hard-hitting Kenta. And then the Great Okon match was more in line with the Yano match. Kind of a lot of goofy, a lot of shenanigans. The match started with a promo that essentially they were kind of going back and forth, and they were saying that the winner, the loser would have to bow down to the winner. That was kind of the big thing there, but kind of just a lot of shenanigans here between these two guys. Not really much to talk about in-ring action. I went the gentleman's 3 stars flat on this one. Definitely don't have to go out of your way to watch this one. But kind of a disappointing matchup here. I know it's not Noah Kenta, but still Kenta. And Great Okon is another guy, which I'm about to talk about him next. He's also been kind of hit or miss. So let's talk about the Great Okon. He's also at 8 points, 4 wins, and 2 losses. So on night 7, like I mentioned when we were talking about Zack Saber Jr., he lost to Zack Saber Jr. 15 minutes and 26 seconds. And then like I just mentioned, on night 9, he lost to Kenta 19 minutes and 30 seconds. And Great Okon, very similar to Kenta, and where it's kind of is a hot and cold situation with him. I'm not seeing the consistent work with Great Okon. I mean, he's having decent matches, but he's a guy that, really impresses as a young lion, and a guy that a lot of people are hard on. A lot of people criticize this guy, and a lot of people are waiting to see results and see him kind of excel to that next level, and we just haven't seen that yet in this tournament. I think it's probably his best matchup thus far has been the Zack Saber Jr. match that happened on night 7, and he got to display a lot of his technical wrestling skill and a lot of that kind of submission style that he picked up in his excursion and Rev Pro. But his other matches, he really hasn't got to display much of that or really show what he can do. And so, night 7, I was feeling really good about that performance, but then you switch over to night 9 with the match of Kenta, and it was just kind of long and boring. There wasn't a lot of action, and it was just kind of meh, just kind of there. And Great Okon shouldn't be having just kind of their performances. I think he should be excelling, and I do think part of the issue has been some of the opponents that he's had thus far. I mean, he's faced Toro Yano, he's faced Tangaloa. He hasn't really faced a lot of top guys yet. But Kenta is a guy that he should have been able to have a better match with. But I think they were more focused on the story they were kind of telling with the whole who has about who, and weren't really focused on having a kind of, notebook style matchup, so to speak. So Kenta gets the win over Great Okon. Post-match, he tried to get the Great Okon to bow down to him, but Great Okon wasn't having any of that, grabs Kenta, hits him with the Eliminator, so leaves Kenta lying, but he does not walk away with the 2 points, but he is tied for 8 points on top of the block with Saber and Kenta. And our next guy that we'll look at, who's also has 8 points, is the Golden Star, Kota Abushi. So Abushi, 8 points, 4 wins, and 2 losses. On night 7, he defeated Toro Yano 4 minutes and 3 seconds. And then on night 9, Kota Abushi defeated the Dragon Shingo Takagi, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, 23 minutes and 57 seconds. So pretty good week here for Kota Abushi. Night 7, he had one of the better Toro Yano matches of a tournament. Like I mentioned last week, my patience has been running thin with Toro Yano and his shenanigans in this tournament. But here we had a nice little quick 4-minute match. Not too much shenanigans Yano could do. And Kota Abushi was pretty vicious in this match, delivering several Kamigoyes and knees to Toro Yano, putting him away very quickly here. Like I said, probably one of the best Yano matches of a tournament. I went 2.5 on this matchup. And then night 9, Kota Abushi picks up that big win over Shingo Takagi. I went 4.5 on this one. There was a great backstory with this matchup. A few months ago, these guys were supposed to face off for the IWGP World Heavyweight title at Wrestle Grand Slam, but we all know Kota Abushi was diagnosed with aspiration pneumonia, had to be pulled from the show, and he was replaced with Evil for that title match against Shingo. So this was the match that we were supposed to have in July, and we're finally getting here. And this was a match for Kota Abushi to kind of prove himself. Could I have beaten Shingo on that night? Could have I beaten the World Heavyweight Champion? Should I be the World Heavyweight Champion right now? So that was kind of the big story going into this match. And of course, Kota Abushi, also the story going on with him. He's also just trying to recover, get his footing back. Personally, I believe, his matches in the tournament, a lot of people have, criticized his performances, just saying, it hasn't been up to what we expect from Kota Abushi. And I think that it's been a work. I think it's been by design. I think Kota Abushi is telling a story here that he's trying to build himself back up and get his footing back, get his conditioning back after being off for so long. And I think we got one of the first truly great standout matches and moments here for Kota Abushi in this match. And this was just your epic New Japan style main event with both these guys throwing big bombs, great counters in the moves. Again, Shingo's arm, the left arm there, or the right arm that's taped up, that Zack Sabre injured, that's also been a hindrance here in this matchup. And a lot of great moments here in this match, especially when Shingo delivered that pumping bomber towards the beginning of the match to the back of Abushi's head and sending him flipping. That was a great moment. Kota Abushi hitting the Kamigoye, Shingo kicking out at 2 for a great near fall there. It seems like it might be time for Kota Abushi to get a new finisher, because the Kamigoye is not getting it done. We've seen him run through finishers the last several years now. He's used the Phoenix Splash, he's used the Last Ride Powerbomb, and now the regular Kamigoye with the knee is not getting the job done. So he does revert to using the Kamigoye with the knee pad off to the back of the head to get the big win over Shingo Takagi. And man, this was just one hell of a main event for Night 9. Kota Abushi, he picks up his 2 points, and not only does he get 2 points, he also beat the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So now he's possibly in line for getting a world title match this fall, or maybe down the line on one of the 3 Wrestle Kingdom shows. We got to remember that Zack Sabre Jr. also defeated Shingo Takagi. So those are the 2 guys that could potentially get title matches this fall. We don't have a King of Pro Wrestling this year due to the way the schedule worked out. We only have Power Struggle as our really big fall show, and then there's the Best of the Super Junior and World Tag League final show, but I don't think we're going to see a IWGP title match on that show. I think Power Struggle will be the only show that we end up seeing a world title match. So I think that it's either going to be Sabre or Abushi getting that title match, and then maybe one of those guys will be one of the challengers come Wrestle Kingdom season. We have 3 domes, 3 main events. I assume that the IWGP World Heavyweight title will be on the line all 3 nights of those shows. So you could potentially hold off on maybe Kota Abushi getting his title shot until one of those dome nights. But yeah, like I said, just a great matchup here. Tons of great. Another spot that I failed to mention was Abushi hitting a beautiful Asai moonsault to the outside. So again, you're starting to see Abushi do more high-risk moves, more bigger maneuvers. I think as he progresses in tournament, we're going to see him kind of getting back to full form. And yeah, just go out of your way. Definitely, if you're cherry-picking the tournament, you definitely want to watch this match. The main event from Night 9, Abushi and Shingo. Again, I went 4.5 on that matchup. Now we're going to start looking at some of the guys who have 6 points here in the A block. So first, we're going to look at Toro Yano, 6 points, 3 wins, and 2 losses. On Night 7, like I mentioned, he was defeated by Kota Abushi 4 minutes and 3 seconds. And then on Night 9, he had a non-tournament match where he defeated Abushi 7 minutes and 14 seconds. And like I've been saying, I'm over Yano in this tournament, and I get it, guys. It's supposed to be the quote-unquote night off for guys. It's supposed to, be, the buffet style of wrestling. You get your entertainment, you get your shenanigans. Well, I'm just not. I think in this year, especially this year, maybe even last year, with the G1 having to be, in this clap crowd environment, and especially this year with New Japan's Western popularity being, lower than it's been in the last couple years, you need some buzz about this tournament, and Toriano is not the guy to get you the positive buzz for this tournament. Like I mentioned, Night 7, that was probably the best Yano match of the tournament. Nice and quick. Abushi put that man away. And then Night 9, the match of Abushi, once again, just pure shenanigans. These guys are pulling out the hoods that we saw when Yano and Chase were feuding them for that KOBW stipulation, the blindfold gimmick they were doing. And you had a lot of that and just a lot of shenanigans back and forth here for Yano and Bushi. Nobody really needed this match. I would have been perfectly fine if they just gave Yano the night off completely and not have him wrestle. But, they want a full show. They want to give the fans their money's worth. But, the viewers at home, we did not get our money's worth here watching Toriano and Bushi open this show up in the 7-minute matchup. But at least it was short and out of the way. But we could have definitely done without that matchup. Again, I went 2.5 on that one as well. So next up, we'll look at Tomohiro Ishii, also with 6 points. He is 3-3. So on night 7, Tomohiro Ishii defeated Tangaloa, 16 minutes and 18 seconds. And then on night 9, Tomohiro Ishii defeated Saber Jr., 18 minutes and 40 seconds. So the Stone Pitbull making a little rebound here, picking up 2 wins this past week. The first matchup, night 7 with Tangaloa, really good matchup here. We've been kind of waiting to see how Tangaloa would perform against some of these higher up guys here. And I thought this was a really good match. I mean, it's hard to have a bad match with Tomohiro Ishii. I went 3.5 on this match. I thought this match probably could have done better, got a higher rating from me if it wasn't for the crowd. Night 7, overall, the crowd was really dead. And I know it's a clap crowd, and so maybe all crowds sound dead. But I could tell there've been better clap crowds and crowds that have really gotten into it with their claps, their stomps, and using the rain stick noise makers to really get into the matches. But night 7 was a rough night here, and especially for just a lot of the matches throughout the night. But yeah, this Ishii Tangaloa match was hurt by that, but the work was really good. Some good stuff from Tangaloa, getting into those strike exchanges with Tomohiro Ishii, kind of seeing that strong style come out from Tangaloa, but was not able to topple Tomohiro Ishii here. Eats a vertical drop brain buster, and Ishii picks up 2 points. Then night 9, like we mentioned earlier, he defeated Saber Jr. Again, just a great matchup. Ishii, just one of the best sellers in the game, and just his selling of the arm here and just fighting through the pain of Saber wrapping this man up. It was good stuff. Definitely go out of your way to check this one out from night 9. I went 4.5 on it. Ishii, he's a guy that usually finishes in the middle of the block, usually a guy that gets about 8 points, and only with a couple more matches left, he's probably only gonna maybe pick up 1, if maybe 2, but probably only 1 more match, and then probably eat some more losses here. We'll take a look at the schedule and see who he has coming up this week to kind of see where he might end up. But we always know with Ishii, he's never going to win the tournament, but he's always going to be one of the standout performers in the block. So really good week here for Tomohiro Ishii. Then at the bottom of the block here with 4 points, Tangaloa, 2 win, 3 losses. Like I mentioned, night 7, he lost to Tomohiro Ishii, 16 minutes, 18 seconds. And then on night 9, he picked up his first earned victory of the tournament, where he defeated Yujiro Takahashi, 12 minutes and 36 seconds. So Tangaloa, part of his story was wanting to pick up his actual first victory. So he got his first 2 points due to forfeit from the Tetsuya Naito injury. So he's been looking for, his first win, his first set of points by actually beating an opponent. He got that here by defeating his Bullet Club stablemate, Yujiro Takahashi. There weren't too many shenanigans here in this matchup here. Of course, Yujiro had Peter with him. Tangaloa had Jado with him. So for the most part, this match was wrestled pretty clean. And, Tangaloa, there was that interview he did a couple years ago where he joked about, wanting to be a junior heavyweight and to be a high flyer, obviously, which would be very, very difficult for the man the size of Tangaloa to drop down to Junior. But we're seeing some Junior offense here. This man hit a moonsault press in this match. We're seeing these high insecurities. We're seeing this high-paced offense from Tangaloa. So I don't think he's going to get in best of the Super Juniors, but he is performing very well here and doing some stuff that we haven't normally seen him do before. And I think he's working really hard here in this tournament. Again, obviously, nothing blow away from Tangaloa, but you know, we still don't really know quite what to expect with him, and he's been having some good little matches here. You know, I think if we had some better crowd reactions, that would help his match as well. And I think too, just some of the opponents he's had as well have not been the best either. We see, you know, he's wrestling guys like Ishii. He's having some better matches. You know, this Yujiro match, I went 3 1/4, so it was a good little match here. Good for this Night 9 show again. So Tangaloa picking up his first pinfall victory here. So he gets some points on the board there, 2 points for this win. So he's now at 4 points, 2 and 3. And he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to come anywhere close to finishing towards the top of the block. Then another guy with 4 points, 2 wins and 3 losses is his Bullet Club stablemate, Yujiro Takahashi. So we know Yujiro got that big win over Kota Abushi in the beginning of the tournament and hasn't really seen much luck since then. On night 7, he had a non-tournament match with Bushi, defeated Bushi with the big juice, 13 minutes and 1 second. Fine little match here, 3 stars. Then, like we mentioned, on night 9, he was defeated by Tangaloa. Again, good little matchup here between these guys. Minimum shenanigans. Looked really good, 3 1/4 stars. You know, Yujiro, like we mentioned, started off hot. He got that win over Abushi. He got the forfeit win over Naito. But yeah, he's fallen fast since then. You know, the big juice has not been able to push through. And so if only, you know, a few matches left, you know, Yujiro and Tangaloa, they're both going to have a really hard time getting points and finishing towards the top of the block. I mean, we can pretty much, you know, X these guys out as guys that can, you know, potentially win the tournament. I'm sure we all had those guys X'd out from day one, but as we're seeing the tournament actually play out here, mathematically, they're pretty much almost eliminated here. And then, of course, at the very bottom of the block is Tetsuya Naito with 0 points, 0 and 9, withdrawing from the tournament due to a knee injury, forfeiting 8 matches. So yeah, sad stuff for Tetsuya Naito. And we did have a question here from Rambo Slam Pig asking if there's any update on Naito's knee. Unfortunately, I have not heard any update on Naito's knee. We know it's a ACL issue. I haven't heard whether or not he's had surgery, but it's probably going to definitely require surgery, and he's probably going to be out for quite some time, which obviously was a big hurt for this tournament, and it's a big hurt going into Wrestle Kingdom season, especially when we have 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdoms, 2 in the Dome, 1 in Yokohama Arena. And you got to imagine that Naito is going to be penciled in for some big matches for those 3 nights. And before we move on to the B block, I have another question here from Grunty Dodds. He says, what was the bigger upset? Yujiro beating Ibushi or Chase over Tanahashi? So we'll talk about the Chase and Tanahashi when we get to the B block. Actually, so let me hold off on this question until we walk through the B block and talk about those matches. All right, so let's look at the B block here. So on top of the block in the B block, we have Jeff Cobb with 10 points. He is 5-0 undefeated. We had 3 nights of action for the B block this week. So on night 6, Jeff Cobb defeated Hiroki Goto, 15 minutes and 8 seconds. On night 8, Jeff Cobb defeated Tamatonga, 12 minutes and 47 seconds. And then on night 10, Jeff Cobb defeated Taichi 15 minutes and 15 seconds. And Jeff Cobb has been absolutely killing it in this tournament, not just from a kayfabe points perspective, but from an in-ring performance. Jeff Cobb, like we've mentioned, since he's turned heel and joined the United Empire, he's just been having just a stellar run in New Japan, and we're getting these great matches, and we're getting this great run from Cobb, and I'm really enjoying his work in this tournament, especially this past week when you look at night 6, 8, and 10. Night 6, he had that win over Hiroki Goto. And it's just kind of interesting to see this matchup, just because Goto was one of Cobb's first rivals when he first came into New Japan, and they fought over the Never title. And it was just one of those situations where Goto was kind of one of those milestones and one of those people that Cobb, struggled to beat, and was somebody, he needed to beat to try and get his footing in New Japan. They had that rivalry in Cobb's first year in New Japan for the Never title, and now we're seeing things kind of flipped here, where Goto's on the downtrend, Cobb is trending upwards, and Cobb is the hard person. Cobb is the guy that Goto needs to beat to try and stay relevant and to try to improve himself and improve why he belongs in New Japan, why he belongs in the G1. But like I mentioned, Goto could not get the job done here on this night. Cobb was just too much for him. Goto, he tried, the GTRs and the GTWs and all this stuff, but Cobb is such a hard guy to throw around and to bully around. And Cobb was able to hit the tour of the islands here. Good little strong style matchup here. I went 3.75 on this matchup. Then the night 8 match with Tamatonga, and also we'll talk about Tamatonga here as we get further down the block, but Tama has looked really good in this tournament as well, and been wrestling pretty clean, and also wrestling without the shirt. Trying to show off the bod here, and had a really good match here with Jeff Cobb. Super fast pace, trying to use that speed advantage to outmaneuver Jeff Cobb, but once again just could not get the job done. Trying to use that big stinger splash maneuver, Cobb just catching him and belly to belly suplexing him, tossing Tamatonga all over the place until he finally puts him away with Tour of the Islands. So another big win there for Cobb. Went 3.5 on this match. And then on night 10, Jeff Cobb's best match from this last week against Taichi. I went 4 stars on this match. And just overall, in general, night 10 was a great night. Probably one of the best B-block nights overall. You had 3 bangers towards the end of that card here, with the Cobb and Taichi match being one of them, being the first match to kind of kick off that stretch of bangers that we saw on night 10. And these guys, obviously no strangers to each other as well. They've also had some history in the Never division, and Taichi, tried using the kicks, the strikes, the axe bomber. He fought for the dangerous suplex in this match. But of course, Cobb, once again, just outpowering Taichi, literally picking Taichi up like a little kid and throwing him corner to corner, ramming him across the corner, using that power advantage. I did pop big for Taichi eventually getting the dangerous suplex on Jeff Cobb, and that's a big boy to be dropping on his head like that. But Cobb, man, just freaky strong and was super dominant in the beginning of this matchup here and really wore down Taichi, and Taichi really fought really hard. And I thought Taichi was going to get the win because of that, because Cobb was just so dominant and just walking the dog with Taichi. Taichi is one half of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions right now, and he's a guy that you would expect to do pretty well in this tournament and probably could pull off a win over Jeff Cobb, but he couldn't get the job done. He tried to get him up for Black Mephisto several times. He just could not get it done. Cobb puts him away with Tour of the Island picking up 2 more points, landing Jeff Cobb at 10 points, being undefeated in the block, having an incredible tournament. Then the next guy in the B block who's also undefeated with 10 points is the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. Again, another great week for him. So on night 6, he defeated Yoshihashi. On night 8, he defeated Hiroki Goto. And then on night 10, he defeated Sonata. So similar to Jeff Cobb, rolling off 3 wins here this past week in some really good matches. So night 6, he defeated his Chaos stablemate Yoshihashi. This was in Korakuen Hall here, so Yoshihashi performs very well in Korakuen, but Yoshihashi's just been on fire ever since he's become 1/3 of the Never 6-Man champions. We see him have a ton of success as a part of that Chaos trio unit. But, the one thing with Yoshihashi, that success has failed to translate over to singles action in this G1. And, all 3 of the Never 6-Man champs have been struggling in this tournament. And I think that's because, this past year and a half or so, however long they've been champions, they've all been focused on 6-man tags and having each other to be able to tag in and out. And some of these guys, I think they might be, out of condition for singles matches. And so they spend so much of the year focusing on 6-man tags, and now they're once again having to rely on themselves in this singles tournament. And we're seeing these guys struggle, especially Goto and Yoshihashi. He had a really difficult task here trying to defeat a red-hot Rainmaker. The Rainmaker is back. Okada made that speech on night 1 or night 2 of the B block, but night 2 overall, when he defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi with the Rainmaker, and saying the Rainmaker is back. And yeah, we're seeing top form Okada here. So Yoshihashi, he had his hands full here. The loose explosion didn't back down though from his Chaos leader. He brought the fight here, but it just wasn't enough to take out Okada. Okada, didn't take him lightly, and worked over the neck for a lot of the match, and dropping him on his head with DDT on the floor and DDTing the ring, and just really working over the neck. A lot of great back and forth stuff here between these guys until Okada finally puts him away with a beautiful Rainmaker. Both guys worked really hard here and gave Korakuen Hall a very good main event. I went 4 stars on this one. Then on night 8, Okada and Hiroki Goto. So Okada back-to-back having to run through his Chaos stablemates here and facing off against another third of the Never 6-Man champions. So Goto, again, has been struggling, much like Yoshihashi, to pick up a win here in this tournament. And, these guys have been focused on 6-man action, like I said so much. And Goto just been really struggling to get out the blocks in this tournament. This was a very hard-hitting matchup here between these two. Night 8 was another night where the crowd wasn't the best. And this match would have definitely benefited from a crowd that could cheer and really get into the match. But the work was really solid here. And Goto, we were kind of seeing this frustration build up in him with these losses. And, there's rumors about Okada, being a bad leader of Chaos. And I'm wondering if some of that frustration was also a part of that and came out in this match. But unfortunately for Goto, he was not able to use that frustration to get a victory. And the Rainmaker claims another victim, but he did not use the Rainmaker to put Goto a win. He used what I like to call the Kenny Omega pin, that big, pinfall that he used to get the win over Omega during the 2 out of 3. He's also used it on Chris Jericho, and he's used it a couple times. It's kind of that sneaky flash pin that he could do, where he hit that on Hiroki Goto, got the big win there, racked up 2 more points. Both guys did shake hands after the match, but I still feel like there's this kind of frustration building in Hiroki Goto that, who knows, maybe we see a turn or him leaving Chaos. Maybe that's just me reading too much into it, but I do feel like there's something that could be coming with Goto with all these losses and the frustration that he's been having. So night 10, Kazuchika Okada, he defeated Sonata, and this match was epic. This was a fantastic main event here. Like I mentioned, on night 10, we had that closing stretch of bangers, and this was the match that closed it out. Okada Sonata here in the main event. I went 4.5 on this one, and I think this actually might be my favorite Okada Sonata match ever. I know so many people loved their series in 2019. I wasn't super high on a lot of those matches, but I really enjoyed this match up here. Just so much back and forth between these guys. And Sonata, really trying to prove himself and beating Okada. He failed to beat Okada for the title. He did beat him in the G1 in 2019 to get his first kind of big win over Okada, but he failed to win the title match. So, if he could beat a red hot Rainmaker here, that would get him in the swing of things and get him back into title contention. These guys know each other so well. There was just so many great counters out of the skull end, out of the tombstone, out of the Rainmaker. I mean, that closing stretch, there were so many great counters. And Sonata ended up having to sell the knee here in this match. He went for the moonsault, landed on his feet, the knee buckle that left the opening for Okada to start working on the knee of Sonata. And that was a focal point of the matchup. And then Okada also using the money clip as a way to focus in on Sonata and wear Sonata down. And, it was a point where, his knee's hurting, but he's also being, put to sleep at the same time. So Sonata was in a rough way here in the middle part of this matchup, using a TKO to come back and getting Okada in the skull end. We got a near submission here, but Okada was able to, pop his head out at one point. We had Sonata going for the moonsault again and missing and landing again. He fights it off this time, which led into another skull end, which Okada escaped from, and then Okada would counter out of the magic screw and hits a beautiful drop kick. And then you had Sonata, he countered the Rainmaker into a TKO and finally hits the moonsault, but he still lands awkwardly on that injured knee. Okada kicks out. Then in the final 5 minutes, they're teasing that 30-minute draw. Okada goes for the Omega pin, couldn't get it. He does a spinning tombstone, which left both men down. Then they're back up and they're trading elbows. We get a shotgun drop kick from Okada. Then a German suplex, which he then he tried for the Rainmaker off the German suplexes. But then Sonata countered with the O'Connor roll and nearly gets the win. We know we've seen Sonata pick up wins in this tournament with that O'Connor roll, and just in general, it's a move that he can pick up wins with. And then Okada goes for the landslide tombstone. Sonata slips back in the skull end. Okada escapes again, goes for a drop kick, and then Sonata, he goes for a Destino. So earlier in the match, he did a Destino-like maneuver into the skull end, but here at the end of the match, he was going for the actual Destino, but Okada countered it, dropped him on his head with the landslide, and then hit him with the Rainmaker. 1, 2, 3, right in the last minutes here. Okada puts Sonata away. Such a good, technically wrestled matchup. So many great counters, big moves, great selling. And one of Okada's best matches of the tournament it's up there with the Tanahashi match. And I think this is the best that Sonata's looked in this tournament. This is probably Sonata's best match of the tournament. So go out of your way to watch this one. Sonata and Okada from night 10. Again, I went 4.5 on this matchup. Just a great, beautiful pro wrestling match. And I have a question here from Dom Homie 101. He says, does Okada need a new foe similar to guys like Omega, Naito, or Tanahashi? Yeah, I definitely think Okada does work best when he does have these guys that are challenging him and guys that he's trying to surpass. But I do feel like they were setting up Will Ospreay to be one of those guys and his next kind of rival. And obviously in the Okada-Ospreay feud, Okada is sitting in the Tanahashi seat with Ospreay sitting in the Okada seat, and Ospreay being the young guy that's trying to overthrow the veteran ace Okada. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic and due to Ospreay's injuries, we weren't able to, see that matchup that was supposed to happen and get the continuation of that story. But obviously that story is not over, and eventually Ospreay will be back in Japan. And I do think Will Ospreay is going to be that next guy that's going to push and challenge Okada. And I think we're going to get a big moment where Ospreay finally beats Okada in the Dome. And I think we're going to get a little rivalry here with Will Ospreay. I think Kota Abushi is another guy that they've tried to position as one of his rivals. I don't think it's quite worked out the way they've wanted it to. Obviously, again, with the pandemic and Abushi's sickness. But I do think Abushi's another guy that is one of those kind of rivals for Okada and a guy that fights for that top spot, especially since Abushi's been, a full-time contracted guy, and the company is behind Abushi and wants him to be one of the top guys in the company. So yeah, Abushi, Ospreay are kind of the two guys there. But I definitely feel like we do need some other guys too in the meantime, and it might be a couple of years, but there was a tease of, Okada leaving Yu Uemura laying, and it was very similar to Tanahashi leaving Okada laying before Okada went on excursion. So, we could have Yu Uemura coming back in a couple of years and being Okada's next big rival, and again, mirroring the Tanahashi-Okada rivalry, and you'll have Uemura being the young brash Okada coming in to try and, take down the Kazuchika Okada Tanahashi ace of the company. So next up, we're going to take a look at Evil. So Evil has 8 points. He is 4-1. On night 6, Evil defeated Taichi 11 minutes and 30 seconds. On night 8, Evil defeated Chase Owens 12 minutes and 38 seconds. And then on night 10, Evil defeated Tamatonga with 13 minutes and 47 seconds. And you know what? It's Evil, guys. These matches, they were fine. Obviously, a lot of shenanigans, a lot of interference. The Tai Chi match, it was a match straight from, 90s Monday Night Raw with all the interference and shenanigans. Miho Abe being a big factor in this match. Dick Togo putting his hands on Miho Abe to distract Taichi, which would allow Evil to take advantage and get the win over Taichi. And I do think it's very interesting that I haven't seen any fans complaining about Dick Togo putting his hands on Miho Abe, somebody who doesn't really take bumps. Just find that interesting. Then on night 8, Evil defeated Chase Owens, and we got the typical Bullet Club finger poke of doom argument spot here, where Evil he wanted Chase Owens to lay down for him. He wanted Chase to hand over the 2 points. We're starting to see Evil face off against non-House of Torture Bullet Club guys, and it's been interesting to see the interactions we're going to be between these guys. So here we're seeing, they're on the same page, they're two sweeting, but Evil wants him to lay down, hand over the 2 points, do a finger poke of doom, but Chase did not want to lay down for Evil, which this frustrates Evil, and the match goes on from there. Back and forth matchups, just a lot of your typical Evil stuff here. We have Dick Togo and the Garrote Wire trying to get involved. Evil grabbing Chase's Texas heavyweight title for a distraction. Evil blocks a knee, but eventually he gets hit with the C trigger, and Chase goes for the package pile driver, but then Dick Togo distracts. Evil hits a low blow to free himself, and then he hits the everything is evil. 1, 2, 3. It was fine. A lot of shenanigans. I went 2.75 on this matchup. Then for Evil's last match on night 10, facing off Tamatonga. This is probably the best match of this stretch here. I thought Tamatonga worked really hard in this matchup here. It was kind of like a fiery baby face here. And, Kevin Kelly has been making the joke, you face Evil, you do become the most popular guy in the room. And we've been seeing that here with these Bullet Club guys that Evil is facing off against here. So once again, seeing the interactions here with Evil and a non-House of Torture Bullet Club member. And before the match, they're Evil, trying to, look for a handshake from Tamatonga. Tamatonga wanted none of that, knowing Evil was trying to lure him in, which he was. Interesting thing about this matchup was obviously Evil had Dick Togo, but Tamatonga had Jado, and Jado was nullifying any Dick Togo interference. Anytime that Dick Togo would try to interfere, Jado would wave him off. And so for the most part, we were getting a pretty clean match because Jado was stopping all Togo interference. We're getting this good back and forth match. Tamatonga is being this red hot bay face, super fast action here, back and forth. And towards the end of the match here, Dick Togo is trying to get involved once again, but Jado fends him off. But then the lights go out, which is typically, Dick Togo's move that we've been seeing him do this year. He'd go in the back and corking and turn the lights off, and then Evil would, lights come back on, Evil would be in control and get a win. Well, also, it wasn't Dick Togo here because lights come back on. He's choking out Tamatonga. Then Tamatonga, falls to the everything is evil after Evil gets a low blow. So, the big mystery was who turned off the lights, and ended up being Sho was the one. After the match, Sho comes out and he's smiling and clapping. So, Sho falling into full Togoism, full evilism, doing a lot of shenanigans here. And, I was really into this matchup until they turned the lights off spot and we had this schmoz finish here. So I'm only going 3 stars flat here. But like I said, probably one of the better Evil matches just due to Jado kind of keeping Dick Togo out of the interference until we got the lights out spot. And I'm gonna need Jado to start running interference on Togo in the booking room as well. I'm gonna need him, Master Heater, to pull out the kendo stick during these creative meetings, and any time Togo opens his mouth, just to crack him over the head with it. And a couple questions here about Evil. First, from Reddit user Pussy Destroyer 83619, interesting name there. Says, Evil doesn't seem to care about cheating to beat his own stablemates. If this causes a rift in Bullet Club down the line, how would you go about booking another Bullet Club Civil War? Or would you try to steer clear of it, and how? Personally, I have no interest in a Bullet Club Civil War between the Bullet Club, I guess you could call them OGs, Firing Squad, and the House of Torture. I do not see any really compelling matchups from having those two sides facing off against each other. I'm not trying to watch a Jay White Evil matchup. Evil versus, we just saw Evil versus Tamatonga and Evil versus Chase. To me, there's not really a lot of compelling, exciting matches to come from this Bullet Club storyline. And who knows if they were going to even do this if Jay was able to stay in Japan and decide to work the G1. But they went this route. We know about the Dick Togo influence in the booking on the House of Torture. But it's just not something I want to see, but it does seem like they are going in that direction with some kind of split. And, they did kind of plant seeds last year when Evil joined the Bullet Club and Jay couldn't get into the country, and Evil was the de facto leader of the Bullet Club, and then Jay was able to get back in the country, and then, there wasn't really any tension. They just kind of got along. But now we're kind of seeing a little bit more tension, especially with Tamatonga in his tweets and, saying, does he know, and kind of getting in the middle of, Jay and Evil squabbling on Twitter. So it does seem like they are going for a Civil War split. And I think if you're going to set it up, eventually you have Jay come back into Japan. Jay has been doing his own thing here in the U.S. He has Chris Bay in the Bullet Club. And again, it's very kind of similar to the Elite versus OGs. We're kind of getting this North American Bullet Club being formed. You have Jay White, Chris Bay, Hikuleo. See, is there anybody else Bullet Club in the U.S.? I think those are the main guys that are in the U.S. right now. So you're seeing that start to form. Oh, El Phantasmo. Well, El Phantasmo and Taichi are in the U.S. right now. So you have those guys representing Bullet Club here in the U.S. And then in Japan, you have the House of Torture. Then you also have the kind of OG guys who are kind of on their own little island as well. So there's almost kind of 3 subgroups here. But, you should have Jay come back to Japan at some point, probably in the build to Wrestle Kingdom, and maybe just kind of vent his frustrations on what's happening with the House of Torture and the way Evil show Yujiro and Dick Togo are doing things, and then you go from there. And again, maybe it is like 3 groups you split off with the 2 in Japan and the one kind of U.S. group, or maybe you just kind of keep one major Bullet Club group, and then you have the House of Torture. There's a couple different ways they can do it. I just don't think it's going to be it's not going to be Elite versus OGs. Elite versus OGs, that was compelling. There was a lot of interesting stuff they could have done there. There was some more matches that could have happened. They left money on the table with that feud. I don't think there's much money to be made here with House of Torture versus Bullet Club. Like I said, there's not a lot of intriguing matchups, and I just don't know if you put Jay White versus Evil on the marquee, like how many people are going to be, busting out of doors to see that one. Who knows? I could be wrong. Obviously, I am not in Japan. I don't talk to a lot of, the Japanese fan base. I know Evil is very popular with some of that fan base, and the House of Torture t-shirt last week was a ranking in the Tokon shop. So there are people who like Evil and who are buying a shirt. So maybe there is some money in Evil Jay White, but personally, I just don't think it would be an intriguing matchup to see. Next question from Stephen Waiteka from the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. First he asks, since Evil beat Tama, can we see a GOD versus Evil and Yujiro? Again, if we're going to do this Bullet Club Civil War, that's probably a matchup you can do. We do have World Tag League coming up, and, Evil's probably going to be in that tag league. It's probably going to be Evil and Yujiro since it's a heavyweight tournament, and GOD will probably be in there if they're in the country. So that is a match that we will probably see in the World Tag League, and will probably happen if not in Tag League, definitely in this, what seems to be upcoming Bullet Club Civil War. Steven also asked, do we call Sho the Terry Gordy of New Japan with the lights out approach? And I think, no, we call him, Mini Evil. We call him a student of Togoism. And trying to ruin matches by turning the lights off. Then last question about Evil here from Reddit user Dom Homie 101. Thoughts on the English announce team always saying that Evil sold his soul? Is this part of the story or just them shooting the ish? I think this is them just telling the story of Evil. I mean, he did sell his soul out to join Bullet Club. He was part of LIJ pre-pandemic, and a nice little spot there, and then sold his soul to join the Bullet Club and to get that run and to become the double champion. That's just a saying that, you know, you say when a face, you know, goes to the dark side and joins up with a group that has evil intentions, no pun intended. So, I mean, that is a part of Evil's arc and character story of, you know, selling his soul to join the Bullet Club so he can get the double titles.
Almost 90% of women have cellulite. And guess what? It's not their fault. We don't choose cellulite, but we can choose a different way to treat it. Meet Quo, collagenase Clostridium histolyticum, AAES, the first and only FDA-approved prescription injectable for moderate to severe cellulite in the buttocks of adult women. This non-surgical treatment is injected by an aesthetic specialist in 10 minutes or less. Individual results may vary. Do not receive if you are allergic to any collagenase or ingredients in Quo or have an infection at the treatment site. May cause serious side effects, allergic reactions including anaphylaxis, and injection site bruising. Seek medical help right away for any signs of allergic hypersensitivity. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions if you have a bleeding condition or take medicine that prevents clotting. Most common side effects include bruising, pain, hardness, itching, redness, discoloration, swelling, and warmth at the injection site. Ask your doctor about all possible side effects and for product information. If you're ready to get to the bottom of your cellulite, learn more and find a specialist at quo.com.
All right, let's move on from Evil. So that's enough Evil talk for this show. Let's talk about the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. 6 points, 3 wins, and 2 losses. Nice little week here for Tanahashi. So on night 6, Tanahashi defeated Tamatonga, 14 minutes and 17 seconds. On night 8, he defeated Sonata, 25 minutes and 36 seconds. And then on night 10, the big upset win here with Chase Owens defeating Tanahashi 10 minutes and 58 seconds. So on night 6, he defeated Tamatonga, and this was a really good matchup here. Like I mentioned in the Evil match, Tamatonga is wrestling these matches like a red hot babyface here, and has been wrestling clean. And we've been seeing him wrestle clean here throughout the tournament. And he wrestled clean here against Tanahashi and had a really good back and forth here. Tamatonga busting up the Tongan death grip on Tanahashi. There was one point where Tamatonga, he hits a sling blade and then goes up top for a high fly flow of his own. It was more of a low down, the D'Lo Brown version of a frog splash, and he nails that, almost gets the win on Tanahashi. And Tanahashi does come back with a twist and shout, hits a sling blade of his own, goes for the high fly flow, but Tamatonga is able to move out the way. He hits a big gun stun, but he couldn't make the cover fast enough to get the 3 count. Tama then laid on Tanahashi, who countered him with a crucifix pin. So Tanahashi sneaking one out on Tamatonga. And again, this was a really good matchup here. We'll talk about Tamatonga, but he's been having some really good performances. I went 3.75 here. So let's talk about his night 8 matchup against Sonata. This was a really good matchup here. Sonata and Tanahashi tend to have really great chemistry against each other. And again, night 8 was one of those nights that the clap crowd was really low energy. And I think this match would have, been better with a more, energetic clap crowd like in Osaka. And obviously would have been better with a crowd that could cheer. The thing with Sonata and Tanahashi, anytime they end up facing off, it usually does end up in a kind of a game of anything you can do, I can do better. And both guys are, try to one-up each other. We had Tanahashi taunting Sonata with the air guitar, and then Sonata returned by putting Tanahashi in the Paradise Lock and taunting him with the air guitar. Both men were attacking each other's legs in this match. Tanahashi using the Dragon Screw to obviously set up for his Cloverleaf. Sonata also attacking the leg and doing Dragon Screw as well. Not sure what he was really trying to target there. I mean, obviously there is a history of Tanahashi having knee injuries, but Sonata doesn't really have any offense that really focuses on the knee. But again, this is kind of one-upsmanship and competition between Sonata and Tanahashi and just trying to outdo each other here. We even got the infamous spot where both men grab each other's legs and they're like, you put it down first. No, you put it down first. No, you put it down first. And both guys, arguing there, which led to Sonata getting the advantage, hitting a Dragon Screw off of that. And we just kind of got this back and forth, one-upsmanship between these guys throughout the whole match. At the conclusion of the match, Sonata goes for the O'Connor roll, like I mentioned, which he used for victory earlier in the tournament. Tanahashi fought through and nailed a beautiful Dragon Suplex out of the O'Connor roll attempt and goes to the top, hits a high fly flow. 1, 2, 3. The ace rides again. Last week, the young boy was trying to tell me that Sonata was going to win. He was laughing that I was going with the ace, that I was riding with the ace, and look at me now. Look where it got me. The ace picked up 2 wins, night 6, night 8, defeated this bum Sonata, gets some points on the board, 6 points. So great stuff here for the ace. But it would kind of stop there when we get to night 10, that the roll Tanahashi was on. He hit the roadblock known as Chase Owens. So big upset win here for Chase. This match was a pretty good match. This was the opener of night 10. There was no non-tournament matches, so it was the opener of the show. Night 10 was also a free show. So if you've dropped your NJPW World subscription and have kind of just been following the G1 through this podcast or other podcasts and news sites, you can check out Night 10 for free. And like I mentioned, those last 3 matches were bangers, but this Chase Owens match was the opening match of the show here. And again, Chase has been wrestling pretty clean this tournament. This was a very well wrestled matchup between Chase and Tanahashi. And it all came down to Chase hitting what he's calling the C trigger, his version of the V trigger. We know that Chase used to be Omega's partner during Tag League season, and we've seen Chase use a lot of Kenny's signature offense in his matches, and the V trigger being one of those, but he's now dubbed it the C trigger, and he was able to hit the C trigger on Tanahashi and drop him with the package pile driver. 1, 2, 3. Chase pins the ace. He pins the IWGP US champion and gets 2 points up on the board. And I've seen a lot of discourse online about Chase being Tanahashi. A lot of jokes about New Japan being dead and what is Goto doing and la-di-da-di-da. And guys, yes, in a normal scenario, Chase Owens probably should not be beating Tanahashi, nor should you ever really think about beating Tanahashi with Chase in a non-tournament scenario. But we're in the G1. In the G1, anyone could beat anyone. We've seen Toro Yano beat several of the top guys. We've seen this year. Yujiro Takahashi beat Kota Abushi. The end of last year, Yujiro beat Jeff Cobb. We see these kind of upsets from lower card guys beating guys who are former world champions, guys that are in contention for the title, and they beat these guys. So anybody can be beat in the G1. So I don't think it's that big of a deal that Tanahashi lost to Chase in a G1 scenario. Clearly, Tanahashi is still going to finish toward the top of the block, while Chase is probably going to be towards the end of the block. And Tanahashi is the U.S. champion. You do need to set up some U.S. title defenses for him. And clearly they want to reward Chase. Chase is one of the gaijins that has been there through the good times and the bad times for New Japan. A lot of the other gaijins, they don't want to do the quarantine. They didn't want to come for G1. But Chase is there. Chase has been on all these tours and has been grinding very hard. And he is a very good in-ring worker. Obviously, he's no Tanahashi. He's no Abushi. He's not in the top echelon of New Japan pro wrestlers, but he's still a very good pro wrestler. And he's been having some very good matches in this tournament. And he will have a very good match for the U.S. title. Post-match, he does pick up the U.S. title, and it does look like they're going to angle to set up a Chase Owens versus Tanahashi U.S. title match. And you're like, why would you do Chase against Tanahashi? Why not do Sonata versus Tanahashi? Well, I'm not the booker, so I don't know why they went that direction. But clearly for the points, that's what they need to do. And hey, it's a very easy title defense for Tanahashi. I think Tanahashi is going to hold this title for a while. You want him to have some defenses under there. You feed him a bum of the month like Chase Owens, and then now there's some believability for the title match since Chase beat him. And I bet you that those near package pile driver attempts in the title match are going to be so great because the crowd gasped here when Chase beat Tanahashi with the package pile driver. So in the title match, the crowd's going to be clued in, and they're going to be looking for that package pile driver. And anytime Chase gets Tanahashi up, the crowd's going to be on the edge of their seat, seeing if Chase can beat Tanahashi with the title on the line. So ultimately, I have no issue with Chase beating Tanahashi. It's a G1. I have no problem with Chase getting a title match. He's a guy, like I said, that's been there throughout the pandemic and has been giving some solid performances. And this is a nice little way to reward him. Now let me go back to Grunty Dodd's question when he asked what was the bigger upset, Yujiro beating Ibushi or Chase beating Tanahashi. And that's a difficult one because I feel like both Chase and Yujiro are pretty much on the same level. Yeah, man, it's tough. I think that Yujiro beating Ibushi is the bigger upset, but I would say Chase beating Tanahashi was probably the more surprising one. Because Abushi losing night one clean, that's the thing. Yes, Yujiro, he did use a low blow, but for the most part, it was a pretty clean match. He got hit with the big juice, and he was laid out. And Chase, again, also, he beat Tanahashi clean with the package pile driver, which is also, it's very surprising. Like, I wouldn't expect Chase to beat Tanahashi, but I do think it's probably a bigger deal maybe for Yujiro to kind of beat Abushi on night one. But overall, both huge upsets for both guys, and a huge upset for Chase, a big moment for Chase. So we'll see when that U.S. title match is going to happen. Probably going to happen at Power Struggle. Question from Ready Rambo Slam Pig. He says, is Chase Owens now the lineal ace of the universe? And, I'm going to say no, because, if we want to figure out who the lineal ace of the universe is, then we would have to trace back to when Tanahashi first became the ace and then track all the people that he's won and lost to since then up until now. So if we were to map out the lineal ace, I would have to do it. Maybe this will be a fun project to do, look up in Cage Match and kind of map out, when, Tanahashi became the ace and all the people he's lost to, because I'm sure that there's somebody that's probably not even in New Japan at the time, in the moment right now, that's the quote-unquote lineal ace of the universe. Then Rambo Slam Pig's second question, he says, WTF is Goto doing? And like I mentioned, I'm pretty sure this is asking this in regards to Chase beating Tanahashi. Again, it's the G1. Anybody can beat anyone. They want to reward a guy that works hard and has been for them in this very difficult time. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think this has kind of been an overblown thing. And also, the U.S. title, it's used to be the white man belt, and we're getting another fellow white man here, Chase Owens, challenging for the title. And so yeah, that's what it is. It's somebody, it's a U.S. guy getting a U.S. shot, pulling an upset win, a guy that they're trying to award. Don't think it's that big of a deal. Well, now let's move on to Taichi, who has 4 points, 2 and 3. So on night 6, he lost to Evil, 11 minutes and 30 seconds. On night 8, he lost to Yoshihashi, 22 minutes and 26 seconds. And then on night 10, he lost to Jeff Cobb. So we talked about the Evil match. Again, that was all shenanigans and Dick Togo and Miho Abe getting involved with the distraction that led to Evil defeating Taichi. Now, night 8 is Yoshihashi match. These guys worked really, really, really hard. Had a hard-hitting match. They had 22 minutes that were out there, but this one just seemed to drag on a little bit at some points. And again, it was due to that night 8 crowd. They were just not as enthusiastic as some of the other clap crowds, which hurt matches like this, where you had two guys who are working really hard and having a hard-hitting matchup here. But Yoshihashi, he does pull up an upset win here. Got his first win of the tournament, beating Taichi, beating one half of the tag team champions. So you got to wonder if this opens up a tag team title match for Yoshihashi down the line. We do know previously G1, him and Goto, they were in that triple threat title match at Wrestle Grand Slam in the MetLife Dome. It was Goto and Yoshihashi against Sonata and Naito against Dangerous Tekkers. So you could insert Yoshihashi back into the tag title mix with Hiroki Goto to challenge the Dangerous Tekkers, perhaps at Power Struggle. But yeah, both guys were working really hard. Yoshihashi was unleashing a ton of offense here on Taichi. He used the butterfly lock. He used the dragon suplex, the Kumagoroshi, which is a brain buster type maneuver. Had several counters for the Black Mephisto and allowed Taichi's signature offense, and Taichi just could not get any advantage here. It just seemed like Yoshihashi was always one step ahead of Taichi, and he busted out a destroyer once again. Pop me, he's adding this into his big boy arsenal here, this Canadian destroyer. Then he hits the Karma, and 1, 2, 3, Yoshihashi defeats Taichi. So big kind of upset loss there. So we'll see if this leads to a tag team title match. Then his last match of the week, Taichi, he lost to Jeff Cobb, which we talked about earlier when we talked about Jeff Cobb. And again, like I mentioned, Cobb was eating up Taichi in the beginning of the match, but Taichi would fight through with the kicks and the strikes and the axe bomber, and eventually hitting a dangerous suplex on Jeff Cobb. But yeah, Taichi, like I've said earlier, was no match for the Tour of the Islands. So Taichi eating 2 losses back to back here, only with 4 points in the block, and only has 4 matches left in the tournament. So he's gonna have to get on his bike here, get some wins if he wants to end up toward the top of the block here. All right, let's talk about Cold Skull Sonata next, who's also at 4 points with 2 wins and 3 losses. So on night 6, Sonata defeated Chase Owens, 11 minutes and 58 seconds. On night 8, he lost to Tanahashi, 25 minutes and 36 seconds. And then on night 10, he lost to Kazuchika Okada, 29 minutes and 14 seconds. The Chase Owens match, it was fine. It was, well wrestled. Obviously, they went, almost 12 minutes. They didn't go very long honestly don't really even remember much of that matchup. I believe Sonata got the win with a O'Connor roll or a roll up and was able to beat Chase Owens. I went 3 stars flat. Don't have to go out of your way to watch that one. Then night 8, we talked about the Tanahashi match already, but just a really good matchup there. Won 4 stars on it. Like I mentioned earlier, that's definitely one if you're cherry picking to check out. And then night 10, that Kazuchika Okada main event that I gushed about earlier that I went 4.5 stars on. It's Sonata's best match of the tournament. You know, like I mentioned with Kenta and the great Okon, how they're kind of hit and miss and don't always are kind of inconsistent with their performances and don't always have great matches. I feel like sometimes Sonata gets that way, and we've said here on the show that Sonata wrestles up to the level of the guy that he's in there with. And I think this week was a great example of that. You know, night 6, he's wrestling a Chase Owens. He doesn't kill himself, has a 3-star match. Then he wrestles a Tanahashi, he's having a 4-star match. He's wrestling Kazuchika Okada, who's on a hot streak right now, 4.5 stars match. So Sonata here wrestling up to the level of competition he's given. And sometimes he can look sloppy. He does botch some of his spots, but he looked really good this week, especially in the Tanahashi and Okada matches. And kind of surprising for a guy that was a G1 finalist last year that he only has 4 points in the block, 2 wins and 3 losses. So just like Taichi, Sonata does have 4 more matches of block action left. So if Sonata wants to be in contention again, he's going to have to start picking up some wins. Next up, Hiroki Goto. So Goto has only 2 points. He is 1-4. Night 6, he lost to Jeff Cobb. Night 8, he lost to Okada. And then on night 10, he picked up his first win by defeating Yoshihashi. So we talked about the Cobb matchup from night 6 and the Okada match from night 8. But let's spend some time talking about this night 10 match against Yoshihashi. I mentioned that night 10, the last 3 matches were all bangers, and this was one of them, this Goto Yoshihashi match. The bell rings, and these guys are just, throwing bombs at each other, very hard hitting, a ton of strikes, ton of slaps, just super aggressive. And these guys are, tag team partners. They're 2/3 of the Never 6-man champs, and they were just, they left all that at the door and they were just throwing bombs at each other. Very hard hitting. Yoshihashi taking it to Hiroki Goto here in this match. And this was like your never style, your strong style. I think this could potentially be a strong style fight of the year, just with the intensity that these guys came at each other. And Goto, actually both guys were going in this match with 0 wins and really had, Yoshihashi had the win against Taichi. So he was looking to pick up a second win, but Goto was looking for his first win. So both guys at the bottom of the block are really desperate to pick up some points here. And Yoshihashi, like I mentioned last week, there was some respect on the line here. Yoshihashi is seen as the third wheel, the lower guy of that Chaos unit, even though he's been having some great performances and has picked up a lot of the windfalls for that team. But getting some respect from Goto, getting some respect from the fans, he needed to beat Goto to get that respect. And that's why he went so hard here. And I mean, the chops and the kicks and just all the stuff they were doing here. And Yoshihashi killing him with that Kumagoroshi. Yoshihashi using the Goto sleeper hold and trying to do the PK, trying to do some of Goto's offense, but Goto would eventually fight through that, hit the GTW, and then eventually, there was this spot where Yoshihashi, he does the Shouten Kai, which is Goto's old finisher and what Goto used in previous G1 success. He used that for a near fall, but then Goto later on in the match would hit a shouting Kai of his own, and then hits the GTR, and 1, 2, 3. Goto gets the win over Yoshihashi, and this is definitely one to go out of your way to check. I went 4 stars flat on this match. I don't know, I've thought about even going 4 1/4. This is just a really good, hard-hitting match, and this followed that Jeff Cobb Taichi match. So, man, that Jeff Cobb Taichi, the Goto Yoshihashi, and then Okada Sonata, 3 bangers in 3 great ways. Just 3 great matches and great way to close out night 10. And, like I mentioned, Goto does get the win, but unfortunately, that's only his first win, and he's only at 2 points with 4 losses. And he's already lost to 2 of the guys on top of the block, Jeff Cobb and Okada. So at this point, Hiroki Goto, he's eliminated. There's nothing he can really do. Even if Cobb and Okada lose the next 4, they would have the tiebreaker over him. So Goto, he's done. He's cooked. The G in G1 stands for geek. It stands for gone, because he is out of there. He cannot contend. He has matches left, but even if he wins them all, he's not winning this year's G1 Climax. So let's take a look now at his tag partner, Yoshihashi, who's also 2 points, 1 4. Yoshihashi losing to Okada on night 6. He got the upset win over Taichi on night 8, and then night 10, he had the tough loss to Hiroki Goto. And we've touched on all 3 of those matches, but I'll just say that Yoshihashi, man, this guy is working really, really hard in these matches. And, it's not the Yoshihashi of old. It's not the bag of socks. This guy is having some compelling matches, hard-hitting matches. He's bringing that intensity and aggression that he has lacked in the past. His big move offense has been great. Using a Canadian Destroyer, using the Kumagoroshi, and then, busting out a shouting Kai on Goto, using a Dragon Suplex, up in the game with his striking and slaps and forearms. Like, this guy has really upped his game and is looking great in this tournament, and is having some really good matches. So, we'll take a look in a minute at the schedule for the next week and see what he has upcoming, but just like Goto, he's also eliminated. He's already lost to Kazuchika Okada. Did he already face Jeff Cobb? Let me look back at the tournament results here. Yeah, he lost to Cobb on night 4. So, yeah, he's, again, just like Goto, he's already lost to the block leaders. He's got 1 win. Even if he wins out the match, he would lose the tiebreaker to to Cobb and Okada if they lost out. So just like Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi is out. But I expect him to have some more great matches in this tournament. Then we take a look at Tamatonga, who's also at the bottom of the block, 2 points, 1 win and 4 losses. On night 6, he lost to Tanahashi. Night 8, he lost to Jeff Cobb. And then on night 10, he lost to Evil. And we've touched on all these matches, but I will say, man, Tamatonga is another guy that's been very impressive in this tournament. There's been a lot of people that were kind of, not really looking forward to his performances in the G1 this year due to the last time he was in G1. But we're not getting that Tamatonga. We're getting a new Tamatonga here. A guy who's been wrestling mostly clean. We haven't really seen Jado get involved. We haven't really seen too much cheating or shenanigans. Wrestling clean and wrestling like a red-hot babyface. Wrestling with the shirt off. Doing a lot of, high-paced, big offense. Busting out a big splash that he's calling, I think he calls it the superior flow. He's hitting all these cool gun stuns. He's getting the crowd into the matches with the clapping to lead into the gun stun. He's doing a lot of stuff here that makes him look like a babyface, which might make you think that he's going to be on the Jay White side of things if there is going to be a Bullet Club Civil War, Or maybe they, again, like I said, maybe you have those Tongan guys kind of split off on their own, and maybe they're kind of the babyface group out of this civil war. They're kind of facing off against the Jay White unit and the Evil unit. We'll see what happens. But Tamatonga, he's looked great. Maybe part of his issue, maybe he shouldn't be a heel. Maybe the Bullet Club stuff that's hindered him over the years, and maybe he's better off as a face. Maybe it's kind of that Jeff Cobb situation where Cobb was better off as a heel, and we've seen Cobb now have a great run as a heel, and maybe Tamatonga is better off as a face. And based off his matches here that he's had in this tournament, I think that might be the case, and maybe it's a time. I know he loves getting those Bullet Club royalty checks. He loves throwing up that too sweet, but maybe it's time he leaves the Bullet Club. Maybe it's time for Tamatonga to branch out on his own. We mentioned last week, there's only so much more GOD can do. They've won tag leagues. They've been the IWGP Tag Team Champions over and over again. I think Tama, he should probably go out on his own and become a babyface, join Hantai. Let's shake some things up here. I would love to see what Tama could do in a babyface role if he would continue to wrestle like he's been wrestling in this tournament. And then the last guy to look here at the block is Chase Owens, also 1-4, 2 points. Similar scenario for Chase with Tamatonga, Yoshihashi, and Goto. All these guys are 1-4. The max they can get is 5 wins, which would bring them at 10 points. But then they would all need Goto. I keep saying Goto. They would all need Cobb and Okada to lose out and be stuck at 10 points. But then a lot of guys, they would lose tiebreakers. And Chase, let me look back. Chase faced Okada or Cobb yet? Blanking out. Let me look back at the results. So Chase already lost to Cobb on night 2, so he would lose that tiebreaker there. And then I don't think Chase has faced Okada yet. Yeah, Chase hasn't faced Okada yet. So, he could beat Okada and have some kind of crazy tiebreaker situation happen, but that is highly unlikely. New Japan is not going to book that. So, Goto, Yoshihashi, Tamatonga, Chase Owens, all 4 of these guys are out of the tournament. But Chase, much like these bottom 4 guys, they've all been having some really good performances. I thought Chase has looked really good in this tournament. Unfortunately, he had the Evil match this week, which was full of shenanigans. He had the Sonata match, which was just fine. They had 12 minutes, and they didn't really do a whole lot there. But then the Tanahashi match was pretty good as well. That I went 3 1/4 on, and that was an opener. And to be honest, that was Tanahashi kind of taking a night off, kind of mailing it in, not really taking a lot of bumps here. But still putting Chase over in a good way to open up that hot night 10 show. So Chase having some good little performances here. And again, he'll probably continue to be in that 3 1/4, 3.5 star range. And, we'll see who he has left here in a second, but maybe he has some more upset wins. Maybe he has some better matches. But overall, I've been fine with the work that Chase has put out thus far in the tournament. So now I'm going to give you guys my top 10 matches of the tournament thus far. So I'll start with number 10. And honestly, guys, number 10, I could have put a whole bunch of matches here because I had a lot of matches ranked at 4 stars, and I could change my mind at any moment. But for right now, for this week, for number 10, I'm going to go with Jeff Cobb versus Taichi from day 10. I went 4 stars flat on that one. Then at number 9, I have Kota Abushi versus Saber Jr. from day 5, 4 1/4. Number 8, Tomohiro Ishii versus Kota Abushi, day 3, 4 1/4. Number 7, Tetsuya Naito versus Saber Jr., day 1, 4 1/4. Number 6, Sonata versus Kazuchika Okada, day 10, 4 1/2. Match number 5, Tomohiro Ishii versus Saber Jr. from day 9, 4.5. Coming in number 4, Kota Abushi versus Shingo Takagi, day 9, 4.5. Coming in number 3, Saber Jr. versus Shingo Takagi, day 3, 4.5. Coming in number 2, Kazuchika Okada versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, day 2, 4.5. And then my number 1 match of the tournament, which I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Tomohiro Ishii versus Shingo Takagi from day 1, 4.75. So we're not getting as many notebook matches as we've gotten in previous G1s, but we're still getting some notebook matches and a lot of great matches here in this tournament. And we still have a few more days left of the tournament. We're halfway through the tournament, so we have 9 nights left, including the finals. So plenty of time to get some more notebook matches racked up. And we have a question here from friend of the show and our guest last week from Post Wrestling, Karen Peterson. She asks, have your picks to win evolved as the G1 continues to surprise everyone as the upsets wins ensue? At this stage, who do you think is making their way to the finals? Yes, Karen. So yeah, as the G1 has gone on, my picks have been changing, and my predictions on air have been different from the G1 pick'em bracket that I entered in the contest that we have going on here at Keeping It Strong Style, and I am working on updating those rankings for night 10 and night 9 results. You can check out socialsuplex.com homepage to find those G1 standings. I will be tweeting those out once I get them updated. But yeah, my picks have been changing, and in a few seconds here, we're going to look at the next few nights, and I'm sure I'm going to have different picks than I had that I entered in my pick'em, because obviously we're getting a better picture of what's happening with the point standings and with upset wins happening. As far as who I think is making their way to the finals, I mean, right now, look at the B block. It seems like it's going to be Cobb and Okada that are fighting for the block. They're both undefeated 10 points. They are facing each other on the last night of the tournament. So I got to think that's going to be the main event. That's going to be the big final play. And of course, you do have Evil, who's trailing behind with 8 points there, who could sneak his way into contention as well in the final night. But I think it's going to end up being between Cobb and Okada, and I got Okada going into the finals. Then on the A block side, Saber Jr. is, on top of the block there with 8 points. I mean, he is tied up with Kenta, Okon, and Abushi, but I do think that Saber is the guy that's going to eventually win out that A block and face Okada in the finals. We haven't seen Okada and Saber in a while, and both of these guys have been having great tournaments, so that would be a great final, and yeah, looking forward to that if that's what's going to be the finals for this tournament. All right, now we're going to look at the schedule for the upcoming week and take a look at the matches coming up. We have 4 more nights before the next time we record. We got night 11, night 12, night 13, and night 14 all coming up this week. So let's start with night 11, which will be happening on Thursday, October 7th, 5:30 a.m. Eastern start time on NJPW World. The show will open up with El Desperado taking on Rohi Oiwa. So that'll be good to see Oiwa mix it up with Despy. Obviously, Despy is going to get the win there. Then we'll also have another non-tournament match as Hiromu Takahashi takes on Kenta. And this is like a junior heavyweight dream match right here. This should be a very fun matchup here. Hopefully we get a serious Kenta here. Obviously, Kenta is going to get the win here because he's in the tournament. He's a heavyweight, but this should be a fun matchup, and it's going to be great seeing Hiromu on the closer of this tour. Then the first tournament match, we're going to have Kota Abushi versus Tangaloa. Abushi is at 8. Tangaloa, let's see, where's Tangaloa at? Tangaloa has 4 points. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Kota Abushi here, getting the win over Tangaloa. Then we have the Zack Saber Jr. versus Yujiro Takahashi. Zack needs to recover from the loss to Tomohiro Ishii, and he's facing Yujiro. I think he will rebound and get the win over Yujiro to go to 10 points. Then Shingo will be facing off against Toro Yano in the semi-main event. Shingo, again, is another guy who needs to bounce back from a loss. He lost to Abushi last, and so he's a guy that I expect to be on top of the block and be in contention going into the final night. So I will have Shingo beat Toro Yano. That will bring Shingo up to 8 points. So he would be right behind Saber and Abushi. And then the main event is going to be Tomohiro Ishii versus Great Okon. And this is a matchup for Great Okon to shine in. It's hard to have a bad match with Ishii, and Ishii's going to be a guy that's going to want to bring it. So this should be a breakout, hopefully the breakout moment for Great Okon here in this tournament, and a matchup that would hit the notebook. I'm going to go with Ishii picking up the big win here. This would bring Ishii up to 8 points, and this will have Great Okon stuck at 8 points. And so then you would have some more tie situations there with Okon. You would have Okon tied at 8 with Kenta, and tied with Ishii if you have Ishii pick up that win there. So yeah, going with Ishii, get them tied up at 8 points, and then you have Saber and Abushi on top of the block with 10 points. Then night 12 will be B block action happening on Friday, October 8th at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on NJPW World. Show will open up with Despi taking on Kosei Fujita. So obviously Despi's going to get the win there. Then the first tournament match, we're going to have Yoshihashi versus Tamatonga. I'm going to go with Tamatonga getting the win here. Yoshihashi, both these guys are already mathematically eliminated. They're fighting for pride here. Yoshihashi's already gotten a win over Taichi, so he can get a tag title shot, but I'm going to have Tamatonga get the win here. Then we'll have Hiroki Goto versus Chase Owens. I'm going to go with Goto. I mean, Chase really honestly doesn't need to win anything else. He beat Tanahashi. He has a future U.S. title shot coming. He could lose out the rest of this tour and be fine. I'm going to go with Goto. Then we have Sonata versus Jeff Cobb. At some point you would think Cobb needs to eat a loss and get and not go fully undefeated. I think Sonata is a guy that could pull off maybe an O'Connor roll or some kind of wacky roll up to catch Jeff Cobb. So I'm going to go with Sonata getting the upset win and giving Jeff Cobb his first loss of the tournament. Then in the semi-main event, we're going to have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Evil. I'm going to ride with the Ace. You can't go wrong backing the Ace. The Ace has been proving me right a lot of times in this tournament. I'm going to go with the Ace getting the win here, because then that would bring Tanahashi up to 8 points. He would be 4-2. This would be Evil's second loss. He would be 4-2, and so he would also be at 8 points. And then the main event's going to be Kazuchika Okada versus Taichi. And with Cobb getting his first loss, I think him and Okada are pretty much going to mirror each other. And I think Taichi is going to get the big upset win here over Okada in the main event and pick up some very well-needed points. So then you would have Okada and Cobb both stalled at 10 points, as you have Tanahashi catching up, getting to 8 points, and then you would have Taichi getting some more points. That would bring Taichi up to 6 points. Then we move on to night 13, back to the A block on Saturday, October 9th at a 4 a.m. Eastern start time on NJPW World. We'll open up with Despi and Kanemaru versus Oiwa and Fujita. So it'll be interesting to see those guys mixing up in tag team action this time. And then, so obviously, Despi and Kanemaru will get the win. Then a non-tournament match will be Tomohiro Ishii versus Hiromu Takahashi. First time these guys have faced off since the New Japan Cup last year, which was one of my favorite matches of that tournament and of the year last year. And so it's going to be very fun seeing these guys work at it. These are both two guys, this should be a quote-unquote night off match, but I don't think these guys have it in them to take a night off, and this could be a Nagata Shingo situation where we're getting a 4-star match in a non-tournament matchup here and being one of the best matches of this whole night. Then the first tournament matchup will be Saber Jr. versus Kenta. I'm going to go with Kenta getting the win here, so kind of slowing down Zach's role here just for a little bit, and that would bring Kenta up. I believe that would bring him up to 10 points, so you kind of get him tied up there with 10, and then Saber would be stuck at 10. So then I have Toro Yano versus Yujiro Takahashi. Gonna go with Toro Yano getting the win there. Essentially both of these guys are out, so it doesn't really matter who wins there. Then the semi-main event, you have Shingo Takagi versus Tangaloa. I have a hard time seeing Tangaloa get a win over Shingo, so I'm gonna go with Shingo getting the win there. That would bring Shingo up to 10 points. And then the big main event, we'll have Kota Abushi versus the Great Okon. So I have Abushi coming in with 10 points, and then Okon would be coming in with 8. I'm going to go with Okon getting the win here, surprise upset victory, and that would put Okon at 10 points. So then you would have Ibushi, Okon, and Shingo, Saber, and Kenta all at 10 points, making this very interesting and making all those guys as matches really matter coming into the closing stretch. And again, I think for Okon, it's another match for him to prove himself. And we're starting to see with Okon, he's starting to get some of the better guys in the block towards the latter half of this tournament. So this should be better, performance-wise for Great Okon in this week. And then finally, the last show before we record will be Tuesday, October 12th at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time on NJPW World. Tuesday, October 12th, night 14. And the show's going to open up. We're going to have Hiromu taking on Oiwa. So that'll be a fun opener there for this show, and Oiwa getting some time to mix it up with Hiromu. Hiromu's probably has a time bomb in Oiwa's future. In the first tournament matchup, we'll have Taichi versus Tamatonga. I'm going to go with Taichi getting the win here. I've kind of lost track of those guys' points, but I think this would bring Taichi up to 8 points. So that's where you want, one half the tag champs. Then Yoshihashi versus Sonata. Gonna go with Sonata getting the win. I believe that will also bring him up to 8 points. Then Okada versus Chase Owens. Have Okada win, so that'll bring Okada up to 12. Then the semi-main event is going to be Hiroki Goto versus Evil. Evil's probably going to get the win here. I believe that will bring him up to 12 as well. And then Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Jeff Cobb in the main event. I'm going to have Cobb get the win on Tanahashi. That would bring Cobb up to 12. And then you could also give Cobb a future U.S. title match off that win. So it looks like we have a lot of really good matches in store for this next upcoming week of G1 action. So some good stuff. Make sure you guys check that out. Look out for Twitter for my real-time star ratings for these matches. Also, something that I've been failing to plug is the column that I am doing with the implications over at WrestlingHeadlines.com. We are reviewing each week. At the end of the week, we pick our top 5 matches, and we pick the top 3 performers of the week. So we have 2 weeks worth of columns up at WrestlingHeadlines.com. You can click on the Imps Adventures column series, and you can find it there. Look on my Twitter, sharing it out there as well. So if you want more G1 insight and coverage from me, you can visit there and check the columns out. Also, you can check out Imp's perspective and his thoughts on the tournament thus far as well. And we have some questions here before we move on to NJPW Strong. So from Rambone Slam Pig, it says, what year is your favorite G1 from an in-ring standpoint? I would go 2016 or 2018 based on what I have seen. Is your favorite based on some other criteria? So from an in-ring standpoint, let's see, I did not watch all the 2016 G1. I would probably say 2018 from what I've seen. So I've reviewed 2018, 2019, 2020, and now this year. So this is my fourth G1 watching everything. So yeah, 2018 would probably be my favorite from an in-ring standpoint. I also think 2019 is very close to me too, just because of, I mean, we had a lot of great surprise entries. You had Mox and you had Kenta. That was just a really fun tournament. And again, I was there on the opening night on Dallas. You had Ospreay and Shingo making the move up to heavyweight and being in those tournaments, and we had a lot of great matches from those guys as well. So I think 2019 is another good year for in-ring standpoint, but I think 2018 might edge it out just with also you think back to that Tanahashi Abushi final, and you still had Kenny Omega in the tournament. Still had a lot of great guys there, so I think 2018 would probably edge it out from an in-ring standpoint, but I also really love 2019 as well. Dom Homie 101 asks, which one do you enjoy more, the G1 in the summer or the G1 in the fall? That's a really good question, Dom Homie. This is now the second year that we've gotten a fall G1, and I think I like the fall G1 better just because it's closer to Wrestle Kingdom season, and it makes the end of the year feel a little bit more important and go by a little bit faster. Because G1 in the summer, it would end, the middle of August. And then I feel like from August to the end of the year is kind of a slog. I mean, you would still get some good matches. Also, you would get a King of Pro Wrestling main event. You would get Power Struggle, Destruction in Kobe or Bipu or wherever they do Destruction at. You would get a Destruction tour. So there would be stuff happening. And of course, you would normally have your World Tag League. But it just feels like, we're waiting for Wrestle Kingdom. Like, a lot of the stuff that's happening in the fall usually doesn't really matter because you're doing these briefcase defenses, and typically you would have the briefcase winner win, and then the champions, you're kind of feeding him some easy defenses. I mean, he's still having some great matches, but they're matches he's probably going to win, and so the fall would kind of get stale sometimes because of the briefcase and kind of, waiting for Wrestle Kingdom. You pretty much had your Wrestle Kingdom main event set, and you had 4 months to get to it. With G1 being in the fall, it shortens that timetable. G1 ending in the end of October, then you only have November to do a show, to do Power Struggle, and you have World Tag League, and the next thing you know, we're on the road to the Tokyo Dome. So it definitely makes the end of the year fly by faster, and it eliminates a bunch of briefcase defenses. And I think logistically overall, I think doing it in the fall works out better. I guess we'll see what happens when things start getting back to normal. We do know the state of emergency has been lifted for the first time since April in Japan. So that's some good news there. And obviously New Japan is working with the government as far as when it's the right time to run bigger capacities and to allow fans to actually cheer at shows. So next year hopefully we'll see what happens, if they will continue this fall G1 or if they're going to slide things back to the summer. So now let's take a look at NJPW Strong. We had the conclusion of the Fighting Spirit Unleashed tour this past Saturday on NJPWWorld.com. The show opened up with JR Kratos defeating Fred Yehai. This was a really good matchup here. Fred Yehai, the savage weight, tried to use his amateur wrestling background, his suplexing ability on JR Kratos, but JR Kratos is just a really big man, and it was just a hard time for Mr. Yehai to try and suplex Kratos or get any kind of advantage on him. So Kratos gets the big win here over Fred Yehai. Then the second match of the evening, we had the Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson defeating Royce Isaacs 11 minutes and 8 seconds. This was a really good matchup here, really technical, really hard hitting. This was kind of a breakout match here for Royce Isaacs. I think a lot of people really kind of know him as a tag team guy, whether it be with the West Coast Wrecking Crew or with his team in the NWA with Thomas Latimer. So Isaac really, he's been seen as a tag guy to wrestling fans, but really a breakout moment here in this singles match with Chris Dickinson. A lot of great stuff here, very hard hitting. Dickinson gets the win over Isaacs. Then the main event of the evening was a long-anticipated strong openweight championship match between the champion Filthy Tom Lawler and Leo Rush. Filthy Tom ends up defeating Leo Rush 16 minutes and 19 seconds. This was a really good main event and title match here. We had some shenanigans here at the end where there was an exposed turnbuckle, which caused the demise for Leo Rush, running into that exposed turnbuckle and Tom Lawler locking on that rare naked choke and putting Leo Rush to sleep. But a really good match here. A lot of great back and forth counters. Leo Rush really displayed his amateur wrestling background, and there were times where he was fighting for this sleeper hold on Filthy Tom. We had a little bit of JR Kratos interference in the match, but wasn't egregious here. And Leo Rush looked really great here, and with him signing with AEW, looks like Leo Rush has postponed his retirement, and we're going to see more of him on Strong. We're going to see more of him on AEW, which I think is great. He's a great professional wrestler and definitely adds to New Japan Strong and will add to AEW. And then the really exciting thing, post-match, Filthy Tom, he, throws a gauntlet down, says who's going to come out and challenge me next, and who should come out but our man, Ren Narita. Coming off his big win of Fred Rosser a couple weeks ago, he comes out here and he challenges Filthy Tom, and Tom's like, I've already beaten you earlier, you're a young boy, yada yada. But that did not intimidate Red Narita, and he stared down Filthy Tom. So the matchup will be happening. It was a part of the Autumn Attack Texas tapings, and that match is going to be happening this coming Saturday on Strong. So before I preview this coming Saturday Strong, I had a question here from Mitch MM22. He says, with the wins Ren Narita is racking up on Strong, do you think it's possible he has graduated from being a young lion and he's just not changing his gear to continue his gimmick as Shibata Jr.? That definitely could be possible, but we are seeing that the Noge Dojo Young Lions, when they come over to the LA Dojo, they are picking up wins. We've seen Yu Uemura starting to get wins, and Narita's been picking up some big wins, and he still comes out to the LA Dojo music. So I don't know, because we've seen the LA Dojo guys graduate and get new music and get new gear. So I do think that will be in line with him. But I mean, they could be going with the Shibata Jr. route, like you mentioned, and he could just stick with the black trunks and stick with the LA Dojo music and kind of be maybe the face of the LA Dojo. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But either way, I'm fine. Ren Narita is awesome, and I think he would be great if he still with the black tights. That worked for him, but if not, I wouldn't mind seeing him get some kind of gimmick or some kind of new gear. But Narita's a man, and I'm pumped that he's getting a strong openweight title match. So coming up this Saturday, we will have night one of Autumn Attack, which were the tapings that happened in Texas. The show's going to open up Minoru Suzuki versus Fred Rosser. Then the second match will be the Strong Openweight Championship match, as Filthy Tom will defend against Ren Narita. And then the main event, champion versus champion, the never openweight champion Switchblade Jay White will take on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Robbie Eagles. So that should be a fun matchup. We know these guys have history with Eagles being a former member of the Bullet Club. So a huge main event here on Strong this week for the kickoff of the Autumn Attack Tour. And guys, if you are not watching Strong, you really should be. It is one of the best hours of professional wrestling going today, especially now that they have fans back in attendance. It's just gotten so much better. We're getting bigger names on the show now. We got Suzuki. We have Jay White here. We have Robbie Eagles. This is a huge episode, and going forward, they've booked a lot of really great matches for these Strong TV tapings. And speaking of Strong, we have a newcomer that will be debuting in Philly, Arya Daivari of 205 fame, the 205 legend, is going to be making his Strong debut on the October 16th show on Philadelphia. He will be taking on Alex Zane, which on that show also will have Will Ospreay and TJP facing Clark Connors and Ren Narita. On the 17th, we have the Moxley and Kingston match against Suzuki and Archer. But on that night, Daivari will team up with Leo Rush to take on ELP and Chris Bay. And on that night, Jay White and Hikuleo will also face Freddie Ahai and Wheeler Utah. So Daivari, it seems like he might be kind of positioned as a face, maybe. The first night he's facing Zayn. Zayn's definitely a face, so maybe that's like a face versus face. Or maybe that's just, I don't know, maybe just the introduction, and then maybe him teaming with Leo. Maybe that he turns on Leo and you get a feud there. We'll see what happens. You know, Daivari, he's a solid guy. I think he's a guy that was overlooked and underrated on 205 Live. I think he's a really good worker, and I think Strong would be a good place for him to continue to grow and have some really good matches. So the only other news that I have that I haven't covered already, Toni Storm announced on her Instagram this week her engagement to Juice Robinson. Storm posted the news on her Instagram account with the photo caption that read, "Pop the champagne, I am changing my last name." So congratulations to Toni Storm and Juice Robinson. And now I just have a few other questions here, then we'll get to the recommended match of the week, and then I'll close this show out. So first from Reddit user fit_beautiful2638 says, looking forward to Best Super Junior schedule a bit. I think I count 11 events plus a final. Does that mean a single block with 12 entrants, 6 matches per card? Or is there some other scenario you can think of with 11 league dates that works? So I was looking at the schedule. I looked at what they did last year. So last year we did have a couple nights where there were some combined Super Junior and World Tag League, but it does look like this year, since there are only the final night will be a combined night, that it's going to be a 12 entry single block tournament. And I did hear some news sources close to us have kind of filled us in on who's kind of penciled in for this tournament. And I'll just say that it's the 12 guys that you would expect to probably be in this thing. I know there was Dragon Lee that was tweeting and teasing about being in the tournament. As far as I know, my source is saying that Dragon Lee is currently not penciled to be in the tournament as of right now. I don't know, with the state of emergency being lifted, and I don't know Dragon Lee's visa situation, maybe there is a chance that he could get in the country and they can, sub somebody out for Dragon Lee. But if that is not the case, it's going to be 12 guys that are all in Japan already. Next question from _dark_soldier. If the IWGP Intercontinental title was still around, who would you have given the title to? Let's see. If the IC belt was still around, who could it have gone to? I mean, I think you could have given it to Ospreay before he won the world title. that could have been. We've seen a lot of guys get that IC title before they get the world title as part of their elevation. So I think Will Ospreay would have been a great IC champion. I think Shingo's a guy that could have been an IC champion. Trying to think who else could have been IC champ. Yeah, those are the two guys that really come in mind to me would be Ospreay and Shingo. Definitely Ospreay, because obviously there was a kind of a clear set path for him to become a main eventer, to get into the heavyweight scene, to get into the title picture. So I feel like, you could have had him, having a nice long reign, kind of like with Kenny winning the IC belt first, having that a nice little reign with the IC title, and then he could have won the world title. And last question here from Reddit user Wiz Factor says, can the young boy explain why New Japan rarely runs shows in Yokohama? Wrestle Kingdom 16 will be their first time in that city in almost 8 years, which is odd for a company that tours the country from north to south. Well, the young boy is not here, but I will do my best to answer this question for you, Wiz Factor. So I pulled up the handy dandy cagematch.net, and I went back into New Japan and looked at Yokohama, because I felt it was odd that they had not been to Yokohama recently, and I know they had been. Just this past year, the Summer Struggle Tour that happened on August 10th, they were in Yokohama. Road to Wrestling Dontaku in April, they were in Yokohama. G1 last year, night 16, they were in Yokohama. Night 16, 2019, they were in Yokohama. Then let's see, there was a show, New Japan World Pro Wrestling. They were in Yokohama. 2018, night 16, G1, Yokohama. 2017, night 16, G1, there in Yokohama. So I think the thing that you were looking at is probably Yokohama Arena. So Yokohama Arena, they have not been at in 8 years, and I couldn't find the reason why that was a situation. But as far as Yokohama, the city, they have been in Yokohama, and that is on their touring schedule. And it seems like, night 16 is always like the night for that. But this year, night 17 of the G1, they will be in Yokohama. So they are in Yokohama, just not hitting up Yokohama Arena. Not sure why that is. I'll try and see if I can find some more information out on that. So the last thing that we have here, recommended match of the week. So last week, the young boy recommended for us to watch Kurt Angle versus Yuji Nagata from the Wrestle Kingdom. Man, that was a great matchup. These guys were like pretty much a mirror image of each other, with the amateur wrestling background, being the same age, almost same height. And yeah, these guys, it was a great matchup. Both guys hitting big suplexes. Kurt working over Nagata's legs and ankles, trying to set up the ankle lock. Nagata got Angle into several of the Nagata locks, the crossface, the arm bar. It's just a great back and forth with counters out of submissions, counters into suplexes. This was a great matchup. So if you haven't seen this yet, you go on YouTube. It's on the Impact Wrestling YouTube channel. If you just type in Yuji Nagata versus Kurt Angle, it will come up. It was from the Global Impact special. And man, this was a really great matchup. Kurt Angle is one of my favorites, and I love Yuji Nagata. And these guys went out here and killed it, had a really good match. I kind of wish that the full match was in entirety on NJPW World, because the Global Impact does kind of cut to commercial. I mean, they show you what happens during their quote-unquote break. But yeah, I would love the match. But one good thing about watching the Global Impact version was having Mike Tenay and Don West on commentary, and they did a great job, especially, the professor, Mike Tenay, calling that match, giving the backstory of Angle, why he was the third IWGP champion, and talking about Brock Lesnar and all the whole hot mess that was, and then, hyping up Nagata and his accomplishments. So I miss Mike Tenay on commentary, and I feel like there should be he should be commentating on some promotion right now. If I had a promotion in America, I would be calling Mike Tenay ASAP. So yeah, good stuff here. Check that out. So this week's recommended match of the week will be Will Ospreay versus Ricky Knight Jr., the big title versus title match that happened at Rev Pro High Stakes on September 19th. This match is up on NJPW World. So if you're a subscriber, just log in. You don't have to worry about signing up for Rev Pro. You can watch the big matchup here between Ospreay and Ricky Knight Jr. Got a lot of great reviews. Need to watch it. So I have it reviewed for Excursion Match of the Year candidacy for our Keeping It Strong Style year-end awards. So kind of killing two birds with one stone here. So that's the recommended match of the week, Will Ospreay versus Ricky Knight Jr. Also, the Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher versus Connor Mills and Michael Oku match is also up on NJPWWorld.com. So looking forward to checking that one out as well. But this week, the recommended match, Ospreay versus Ricky Knight Jr. I'm sure we'll also see the Empire angle at the end of that match as well. So definitely a relevant match to watch because it does play into the main canon of New Japan and what's going on with the United Empire and the quote-unquote real World Heavyweight Champion, Will Ospreay. Well, folks, that is going to wrap things up for us here this week on Keeping It Strong Style. Like I mentioned earlier, Chris Samsa is locked in for next week, and hopefully the young boy will be able to join us next week as well. And we'll be reviewing nights 11 through 14 next week. So if you enjoyed today's show, please leave a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. I am at Jeremy L. Donovan. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also, you can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Also, check out our YouTube channel. Type in Social Suplex Podcast Network and subscribe for some podcast clips. And make sure you check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. 8-Bit Suplex with Josh #2. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And the Great Match Generator with Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Bundling home and car insurance with Geico is so easy, your neighbors are probably already doing it. But who? They may drop little hints like,
beautiful day out. Even more beautiful since we saved by bundling our home and car insurance with Geico.
or
Yard work is hard. Much harder than bundling with Geico, which was easy.
or it may be even subtler, like,
Speaking of burgers, we bundled our home and car insurance with Geico and saved a bunch of money.
bundling is easy with Geico. Just ask your neighbors.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Before you ride, make sure your mirrors are clean and adjusted properly. And if you're going on a group ride, make sure the lead biker knows where they're going.
Ed, quick question. Where are you taking us?
Oh, I have no idea. Well, am I the leader? Because I was following that dude with the red helmet. Where is he?
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.